Okay, let's shift to the other topic. You think Aaron Rodgers is too old? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're
I
saying? This
am
guy.
saying that. I am saying that. I
Mhm.
feel like I'm having kind of deja vu because we went through kind of this same cycle, this hype cycle with the Jets last year, and there was so
Mm.
much about like, hey, they've got this great defense, and yeah, they had Zach Wilson all these years, and he sucked, but now they've got a real quarterback in Rodgers, and so this is going to be the year for them. Patriots are out of the picture. It's everything is really working for the Jets. This is the magical year. And it's almost like we kind of like froze time when Rodgers got hurt. Like, what was it?
Mm.
3 plays into
Yeah.
regular season, at least. And then now he's gone through the rehab, come back from this Achilles injury, and he's 1 year older and 1 year further removed from his last good season, which was not his last season in Green Bay, for the record. And so then now we're sort of back in that hype cycle where it's like, okay, great Jets defense. Rodgers, plug him in. We're going to do the same thing. And I don't think it was going to work last year. We never really got to test that out and actually sort of see that play out. But I think it had a much better chance of working out last year than it does this year, just because of the fact that at last year, so Aaron Rodgers 40, he's going to turn 41 in December, and Pro Football Reference measures their season age as like, I think the end of the season or like New Year's Eve or something. So this is his age 41 season. And the number of quarterbacks who have even started more than 6 games in a season in their age 41 season is, I believe, 5 quarterbacks. So there was Tom Brady, there was Warren Moon, there was Drew Brees, there was an extremely old Dallas Cowboys version of Vinny Testaverde, and I think there was
Wow.
one more in there. And Testaverde is a guy that's always kind of compared because they had the same injury, very similar circumstances, hyped up Jets
And
team early in the season.
was Favre the Vikings age 40? I'm trying
Favre's
to.
good year with the Vikings was 40. So by 41, he was pretty
Yeah.
much done. He was injured, knocked out halfway through that year, and that was basically the end for him.
Yeah.
And that's the theme with a lot of these quarterbacks is once they get to a certain age, they're like Breeze, they can't really throw anymore, and maybe that's not a problem for Rodgers. But then the other thing is just something happens, some kind of injury happens, or they just can't process the game as quickly as they used to be able to. And Rodgers in his
That's.
go ahead,
I,
yeah.
I just wanted to, like, quick interjection on that. The way Rodgers got hurt, I know it's a small sample size, but I think that in of itself is concerning because that play, I think I'm trying to pull it up right now actually and look at it. But
Yeah, he had pressure. He got chased down from behind and he was rolling out of the pocket or sort of trying to kind of elude that
well,
and didn't really realize what was happening behind him.
well, yeah, there wasn't awareness, and Wilson was wide open on a slant. So his primary receiver, you never know quite what they plan to do, but his primary receiver was wide open right in front of him. And I'm watching the play again. Yeah, wide open right in front of him. And he kind of just did a turn down and the sort of hesitancy that you might see from an older quarterback who's starting to get washed up. Again, small sample size, but yeah, I'm even sending it to you right now. I think they show the replay Madden angle at around the 40-second mark. But I found that in of itself concerning because it's just that was just the wide open, the exact read that you would think. So what's going on?
Oh,
Why is there
totally.
this turtling effect right here? Is that your? Did you just see it? Did you
I
just
just saw
see
it,
the clip?
yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's and again, you can't make too much out of that, but there are just this accumulation of reasons why quarterbacks generally go back to the old Max Kellerman phrase. They fall off a cliff at
Yeah.
around age 40. You get to 41, it's very slim pickings. So really, we're kind of by saying we're really excited about the Jets, and I understand this is a franchise that is they need things to be excited about. I understand that, and I have nothing against them as a team and sort of the hope that goes into that. But by sort of thinking that Rodgers is going to be the savior or play a role in sort of that type of role in a season, you're asking him to be Brady, basically. Because if you look at
Yeah.
there have only been 10 seasons where a quarterback at age 41 or older, so it could be any age older than 40, started more than 7 games in a season, and 5 of those belong to Brady. So, we're talking about, and 2 belong to Warren Moon. And then you had Testaverde, Favre, and Breeze. And Favre was in that 2010 season where he was pretty much washed at that point. So we're talking about, like, if he's not Brady, they're really kind of counting on, the best they can hope for is maybe like a league average type of performance, which is sort of how he was his last year in Green Bay. There's a lot of conversations about, like, well, he didn't have the weapons, and now he has, better supporting cast and so on and so forth. But I just feel like we always try to find reasons to think somebody can beat Father Time. And especially since we've had this recent sample of seeing Brady doing what he did, he defied all of the odds. And so I do think we're a little bit more primed to think, well, Rodgers roughly as talented a quarterback as Brady, maybe even more talented in at his peak in terms of just ability, certainly not in terms of Super Bowls. But, we have this tendency to think, well, Brady did it, Rodgers can do it too. And I do think that's the situation where it's helpful to look at the entire history of the NFL and think about all the other guys that were roughly as good as Rodgers or as accomplished as Rodgers that didn't do that.
I should have anchored the conversation a little bit better. I think one of the reasons you wrote it was because they did the quarterback ranking at The Athletic by Sando, where they talked to a lot of people in the NFL, and Rodgers was ranked in the top 10. That was the surprising name. Was it 7 for him? I believe it was.
Well, yeah, and this was the first time that he had actually fallen out of the top tier of quarterbacks, and it was sort of treated like it was like, whoa, this is shocking, this is crazy. And I was like, I'm not surprised by that. I think he should be, arguably lower. Like, you could make a case for it. So, I do think that that's one of those things where it's like we have this vision of who Aaron Rodgers is in our head. And you talked about this on a podcast. I forget who it was with, but this idea that, like, when you play pickup basketball now, you have in the back of your mind, being the age that we are, that you could injure yourself. And that affects how you play, even if it's on sort of a subconscious level. And that was not the case when you were playing when you were younger, but it sort of creeps in there. And it's one of those things where you look at yourself and, I've put on some weight over the past 15 years, but if I played basketball, I'd be like, oh, I'm the same player, same guy, this, that, and the other. And it's like, yeah, but the body changes in ways that maybe you don't appreciate, where it's like, yeah, Aaron Rodgers roughly looks the same as he did, 5-10 years ago, but so did Brett Favre in, 2010. So did Warren Moon as he was, older, or Vinny Testaverde or guys like that. There's just something about being a pro athlete where any amount of slippage is enough to drop you from the absolute peak of performance to being mediocre.
Yeah, Brett Favre was tempting some people to make him pee in a cup with that one great Viking season because he had a gray beard when he was doing that at age 40.
So does Aaron Rodgers.
Maybe that's
your rule.
Yeah, if you got a gray beard, we gotta wonder. We gotta wonder if you can reach those old heights.